Call to me and I will answer you and show you great and hidden things which you do not know. Jeremiah 33 verse 3. I have extended my presence over this hospital, and every corner that once seemed wrapped in fear and pain trembles before my power. There is no room or hallway where my energy does not reach, touching lives, restoring bodies, and freeing souls that had been afflicted by illness. Every breath that rises now responds to my will. Every heartbeat aligns with the rhythm of life I have ordained. Though doctors trust in their machines and diagnoses, I act beyond all human understanding. I observe those who care for the sick and feel their disbelief mixed with a longing for hope. I transform that mixture into reverence and awe. Every hand that touches a patient receives an impulse that does not come from science, but from my authority over life. The monitors display signs that defy all explanation, and every machine that measures critical parameters reflects the harmony I impose on each body. There is no disease that can resist my intervention, no organ that remains damaged at my touch. I can make healing arise even before someone realizes they need it. Every cell responds to my presence, every tissue reorganizes, and recovery manifests instantly, leaving those who try to measure it in wonder. What once seemed irreversible becomes undeniable restoration. Nurses feel a deep relief, and though they may not understand the source of this miracle, they sense that something greater than their medical knowledge is at work. Families who have waited through long nights now see the sign of my power. Their tears turn into disbelief and amazement, and their hearts fill with peace. I restore bodies, but I also strengthen faith and renew hope. Every recovered breath, every vanished symptom is a living testimony that I act where human medicine seems limited. The healing I give recognizes no boundaries. It is total, immediate, and glorious. I look upon the doctors as they review reports and tests, and I know they feel a clash between what they know and what is happening before their eyes. Their calculations and predictions are altered, and their disbelief encounters the tangible evidence of my authority over life. Every patient who rises from their bed without medical explanation bears the mark of my power and my revealed will. Those who doubted begin to recognize that life answers to an order beyond science. The light that fills these halls does not come only from the lamps. It is my light, radiating clarity and restoration. The shadows of sickness retreat before my presence. I can make every organ function in perfect harmony, every heartbeat restored, and every breath synchronized with the flow of life I decree. Even the corners where fear seems strongest receive my healing energy, and the peace I leave fills every soul present. No illness can remain where I am. The healing I offer manifests in an instant, and what seems unexplainable to doctors becomes undeniable evidence of my eternal power. Vital signs that once showed imbalance now reflect perfect harmony. Every monitor, every diagnostic machine becomes a silent witness to what cannot be learned in any medical school. Each instant recovery confirms that my authority over life knows no limits. I feel every emotion that runs through this hospital: fear, uncertainty, anxiety. All of it transforms into hope and awe when my presence is felt. Patients who once lay exhausted now feel renewed strength. Those whose hearts were filled with fear now experience peace. Every physical recovery is accompanied by emotional relief, and every soul finds calm because they know, even if they do not fully understand, that my power has intervened. Doctors who try to explain what is happening face the evidence of the supernatural. Their knowledge, though vast, is limited compared to what I decree. Every restored function, every symptom eased without human intervention reveals that I act on a level that transcends understanding. Disbelief turns to wonder, and wonder opens doors to a quiet faith that begins to grow. Families watch as life returns unexpectedly to their loved ones. Every gesture of relief, every deep breath regaining strength becomes tangible evidence that my will has been fulfilled. The healing I give distinguishes no age, condition, or duration of illness. It is complete, glorious, and powerful, manifesting in ways that all present can perceive. Every step I take within this hospital transforms the atmosphere. The air fills with energy that calms fear, restores hope, and strengthens hearts. What seemed impossible becomes visible. What appeared to be a terminal diagnosis turns into an opportunity for life. The signs of recovery are immediate, and the healing I give defies all logic. I can work where human medicine fails, for my authority over life has no boundaries. Every patient who feels immediate relief carries in their body the evidence that I act with power and glory. The nurses and doctors, though astonished, begin to perceive that my intervention surpasses their efforts and knowledge. Healing is not gradual, it does not depend on processes, it is instant, miraculous, and glorious. The hospital becomes a sanctuary where life triumphs over sickness. Every sound, every light, every breath reflects my power. Patients rise, monitors display balance, and families experience the peace that only I can bring. Every unexplainable recovery confirms that my authority is supreme, and that where humanity finds limits, I unfold the impossible. Everyone who witnesses this miracle can feel the force that drives it, even if they cannot explain it. Bodies are restored, hearts fill with hope, and doctors feel the silent reverence that arises before the evidence of my power. Every action, every breath, every heartbeat I restore is living proof that the impossible becomes possible under my will. The presence that transforms remains in every room, touching bodies, illuminating minds, and strengthening spirits. The healing I give is complete, immediate, and glorious. Every recovered patient becomes a living testimony of my authority over life and health. Every doctor, every nurse, and every family member experiences profound awe, for what they witness has no human explanation. It bears the mark of my eternal glory. For nothing will be impossible with God. Luke 1 verse 37. I have seen how unbelief rises among men, even in the face of the miracles I unfold with power. Many trust in their methods, in the science they have built, in the experience accumulated through years, but they forget that life itself depends on my word. When my power manifests in hospitals, the human mind tries to reason what can only be understood through faith. I have seen doctors pause before results that contradict every prediction, and in their eyes I see the confusion of those who witness the impossible. While unbelief asks, "How can this be?" my power simply acts. I need no permission, no formulas, no favorable conditions. When I decide to work, matter submits, bodily systems reorganize, and sickness withdraws. Human science studies patterns and causes, but my intervention breaks the mold. Where there was irreversible failure, I establish balance. Where death seemed imminent, I establish life. No diagnosis can stop what I decree, and no prognosis can limit what I choose to manifest. Doctors bend over their reports trying to find an explanation. They search for errors in the instruments, doubt the results, repeat the tests, and yet the mystery remains. They do not understand that human unbelief cannot erase what I have already determined. My power does not depend on logic or knowledge. I can restore a heart that had stopped beating, rebuild destroyed tissue, and return movement to a body that medicine had declared lost. I do it without noise, without delay, without the need for recognition. Human unbelief resists accepting that there is an authority that transcends the visible. Many think faith is an emotional refuge for the desperate, but they discover it is the key that opens the doors of the eternal. When my presence enters a hospital room, limits dissolve. Science observes, reason hesitates, but reality transforms. Healing manifests with perfect precision, leaving speechless those who trusted only in physical evidence. I have seen doctors exhale before a monitor showing life returning. I hear their silence filled with awe and feel the internal struggle between what they learned and what they are witnessing. They try to explain it, seek new terms, but know that something greater has intervened. In that instant, human knowledge bows before the power that surpasses it. Unbelief melts into reverence, and reason recognizes its limit. The power I display is neither sudden nor capricious. It is the natural extension of my creative nature. What I design can be restored at any moment, regardless of damage or time past. Organs respond to my will, cells obey my order, and blood flows with the precision I establish. Sickness cannot resist when I decide to intervene. That is why doctors who witness these transformations are marked for life, because they know they have seen something no human instrument could ever produce. Human unbelief fears losing control. It prefers to cling to what it knows rather than open itself to what it cannot measure. But my power does not seek approval. It manifests even among skeptics. I touch the patient that science abandoned, restore organs that tests declared useless, and cause life to surge with unexpected strength. I do this not to challenge science, but to remind the world that all science exists because my word existed first. In this hospital, where the air smells of sleeplessness, cleanliness, and fragile hope, I have chosen to leave marks that no one can erase. The machines that measure vital signs will become silent witnesses of the eternal. The hands of doctors will tremble, not from fear, but from reverence. Every bed will become an altar, every patient a testimony, and every gaze an involuntary acknowledgement that the impossible has occurred. Human unbelief observes and says, "It cannot be real." But reality has already changed. The fever disappears, failing organs function with precision, and the entire body responds with new vigor. There is no technical error, no coincidence. It is my power displayed in its fullest expression. The tears of families turn into rivers of gratitude, and the atmosphere of the hospital fills with a reverent silence. It is not the silence of fear, but the silence of awe. Unbelief tries to explain what only faith can recognize. But I need no explanations. My power is enough. Every diagnosis that seemed final becomes obsolete. Every doctor who tries to justify what has happened with scientific reasoning encounters a mystery that surpasses them. And deep within their minds, though they may not confess it, they know they have witnessed an intervention that transcends human logic. I have heard the silent prayers of families who doubted if their cry would be heard. I have responded with actions, not words. While some asked for a sign, the sign became visible in the bodies of the sick. Eyes that had dimmed shone again, cold hands regained warmth, and weak hearts grew strong. Those who thought everything was over discovered that the testimony of my power was only beginning. Human unbelief feeds on the visible, but my power manifests in the invisible and makes it tangible. No limit can stop what I decree. Matter obeys, time submits, and illness yields. Medical reports become evidence of the supernatural. Every word written in a diagnosis is confronted by the truth of my work. And though doctors may remain silent to protect their reputation, deep inside they know they have seen eternity break into time. My power is not limited to healing bodies. It also touches hearts hardened by doubt. Every doctor who witnesses a miracle carries within them the seed of wonder. They may not yet understand it, but the day will come when they will remember that moment and know they stood before a divine manifestation. My purpose is not only to restore physical health, but to reveal that all life is under my dominion, and that no disease, no matter how devastating, can prevail against my will. In every hospital where my presence unfolds, the atmosphere changes. The air fills with vibration and vital energy. Those who once feared now feel peace, those who wept now smile, and those who doubted now fall silent before the evidence. Unbelief dissolves when truth becomes visible. Science may continue searching for reasons, but my power does not depend on hypotheses. It simply fulfills itself. I have seen doctors compare yesterday's tests with today's results. They see organs restored, tissues rebuilt, and values balanced. Their minds waver between astonishment and denial, but the fact remains. Every instant recovery is a reminder that the power that surpasses them cannot be ignored. I do not seek their approval. I simply leave my signature in the history of every transformed life. Human unbelief wants proof, but my proof is in the bodies that rise, the voices that speak again, the hearts that beat with renewed strength. Every patient healed without medical explanation becomes a living message. They need no speeches, only presence. Every doctor who tried to find a reason is caught in the mystery of the miracle. And though some may call it coincidence, their spirit knows it was my direct intervention. My power knows no borders or obstacles. I can act in silence or with thunder, in a hospital room or in the most forgotten corner. When I choose to move, unbelief crumbles and faith is reborn. I have torn down the walls of skepticism with irrefutable acts, for wherever I touch, life flourishes and sickness disappears. Medical instruments record what happens, but they cannot explain its origin. I leave in every heart the echo of eternity. Those who witness these miracles are never the same again. They may not understand it immediately, but they know that something sacred occurred. Unbelief loses its strength when the miracle becomes reality. Doctors, families, and patients remain silent before the mystery, for they feel that life itself has been touched by an invisible hand. The power I display in this hospital stands as testimony of my dominion over all creation. No science can limit me, no doubt can stop me. What I declare comes to pass. Human unbelief tries to explain the unexplainable, but my purpose is to make them understand that life is in my hands, and the healing I give has no comparison. Diagnoses change, machines fall silent, hearts beat, and awe fills the air. In that moment, doubt surrenders before the glorious evidence of my power. With God all things are possible. Matthew 19 verse 26. I have stretched out my hand over broken bodies and weary souls lying in this place. When my touch is revealed, I not only restore the flesh, but I also renew the inner essence. Every fiber, every thought, every emotion responds to my power. Nothing remains unchanged before my intervention, for when I descend, the visible and the invisible align under my will. The body feels my contact like fire that does not burn, like a breath that restructures what was once destroyed. The soul perceives my touch as peace that pierces through all anguish and dismantles fears anchored deep within. In this hospital, my presence moves with divine precision. Each bed becomes a meeting point between the eternal and the human. Doctors observe the results without being able to explain the cause, and patients awaken without understanding how life returned to them with such force. I have touched bodies that were on the brink of collapse and brought them back to fullness. No nerve, muscle, or bone can resist the command of my restoration. My energy flows through every system of the body, cleansing what was corrupted, strengthening what was weakened. Cells regenerate with a speed no human mind can measure. Organs that were failing begin to function perfectly, and pain yields to the authority I impose. But I do not stop at the physical. To touch the body without touching the soul would leave the work incomplete. That is why I penetrate the layers of being that medicine cannot reach. I enter thoughts, emotions, and wounded memories that left deeper marks than any physical wound. There I plant rest. There I establish balance. Those who had lost the will to live now feel purpose. Those who had ceased to believe in miracles now stand face to face with the evidence of my power. I have seen hearts hardened by years of hopelessness. With a single touch, I transform unbelief into faith and complaint into gratitude. What once seemed resignation becomes expectation. Doctors, though trained in reason, begin to perceive that something greater than themselves is operating within these walls. Stories of diagnosis and prognosis collapse when my invisible hands move. My touch is not confined to a single bed or patient. It spreads. It crosses doors, passes through walls, reaching areas where no one expects miracles. Sometimes my power works in silence, without warning or visible manifestation, yet the result is so undeniable that no one can refute it. Those who drifted between life and death open their eyes with full awareness. Those who lacked strength to move rise with new energy. Every recovery is a symphony between body and soul. When I restore the physical, the spirit also rises. There is no separation between the inner and the outer when my power acts. Even those who fear me without knowing me feel the impact of my touch. They do not need to understand it, it is enough to receive it. What happens in seconds surpasses what treatments failed to achieve in months or years. I have walked among beds where pain seemed to reign, and with only my presence I have silenced cries, calmed minds, and restored smiles. Doctors observe vital signs and cannot comprehend how everything improves so suddenly. Their logic falters, their knowledge is suspended. Some attempt to find natural causes, but within they know what they witness belongs to another dimension. Each patient I touch carries on their body the mark of the eternal. No scalpel has acted, no medicine has been enough. Everything transforms by the divine energy I impart. The skin regenerates, heartbeats stabilize, fever fades, pain ceases. Yet deeper still, the soul experiences liberation. Resentment dissolves, guilt vanishes, fear loses strength. I have also touched those who accompany, the ones waiting in cold corridors for news. Their hearts burdened with anxiety receive my comfort, and though they do not understand how, they feel a peace not of this world. My touch knows no barriers, the invisible becomes tangible. Where there were tears, now there is hope. Where there was despair, faith blossoms. Nothing can resist when I touch both body and soul at once. The flesh obeys, the spirit rises, and the mind becomes still. The result is complete, immediate, incontestable restoration. Doctors compare past and present reports, searching for coherence, but they find none. All they can say is that something changed without explanation. That something is me in action. The human soul, when it receives my touch, experiences rebirth. Painful memories lose power, dark thoughts dissipate. The body, freed from its inner weight, heals faster than imaginable. Emotions begin to align with the new life I have decreed. What once seemed an endless cycle of suffering is interrupted forever. I have seen doctors stand silent before empty beds that once held suffering. I have seen tears of wonder in eyes accustomed to the routine of pain. My touch dismantles habit, breaks statistics, and erases the boundaries of the understandable. When I intervene, there is no trace of the former, only evidence of perfection. Every miracle in this hospital bears an invisible mark that all can feel, though none can name. It is the result of touching not only the sick body but also the weary soul. It is the union between the science that observes and the faith that responds. Those who witness these events begin to question what they once thought unchangeable. I move the borders of human understanding to reveal that the divine is not distant but here, acting with power and precision. When I touch, I do not restore halfway. I restore abundantly. If there were damaged organs, I renew them. If there were confused minds, I clear them. If there were wounded emotions, I heal them. What I touch gains new purpose. Every healed body becomes a testimony. Every liberated soul becomes a silent messenger of my power. Doctors may attempt to explain the physical, but what happens within can only be attributed to my action. In this hospital, my touch has turned pain into worship. Where despair once reigned, now hope arises. Where only machines once sounded, now the pulse of life resounds in its fullest strength. Families, upon witnessing recovery, sense something greater than any treatment. They know human intervention is not enough to explain the speed, the precision, and the peace that follow healing. I have decreed that every miracle be a silent teaching. No speeches or explanations are needed, for transformation is visible. The restored body and the calm soul are enough to declare my greatness. In every room, a different atmosphere is felt. The air seems lighter, the light purer, time more gentle. It is the effect of my touch uniting the physical and spiritual in perfect harmony. Nothing can resist the union of my power and the faith I awaken. When I touch, divine energy passes through all limits and leaves behind order, life, and wholeness. In that instant, science falls silent, the mind yields, and the soul sings. Those who witness these events will never see life the same way again. They have seen the impossible happen before their eyes. They have felt the boundary between the human and the divine disappear. My touch continues to move. It does not end with a single miracle, for my power is inexhaustible. Every hospital where my presence manifests becomes a place where the natural submits to the eternal. Bodies return to life, souls are strengthened, and hearts learn that the greatest miracle is not merely to heal, but to feel me within every cell, every thought, every breath. I have touched the body, I have touched the soul, and what I have joined will never again be separated. Restoration is total, perfect, glorious. Those who have felt me know that the power working in them cannot be explained with words. It can only be lived. Thus I establish my victory in the midst of the hospital, and my glory remains as eternal testimony that nothing is impossible when I choose to touch life with my own hands. And these signs will follow those who believe. In my name they will lay hands on the sick, and they will be healed. Mark 16 verses 17 to 18. The atmosphere of the hospital has changed. What was once routine and controlled now vibrates with an energy beyond human understanding. Every step I take leaves visible and undeniable signs. They are markers that defy reason, signs that reveal the eternal has manifested among men. No instrument can measure what occurs, no diagnosis can deny the evidence of my power. Doctors walk the corridors, their gazes filled with questions they cannot answer. Laboratory results arrive with figures that contradict what they knew. Equipment shows normal values where only deterioration existed, and patients who should remain unconscious open their eyes with clarity and strength. No scientific explanation can sustain what they witness, yet silence falls before the magnitude of what they see. The signs begin with small flashes, sudden improvements that defy logic. A weak heart now stabilizes, labored breathing becomes calm, an immobile body responds instantly. Nurses pause at monitors showing vitality where death had been predicted. Doctors attempt to compare previous studies, but the numbers have changed. Everything that was at risk is now in perfect balance. Each sign is a silent declaration of my authority. No camera can capture the source, yet the results multiply. Wounds close faster than the skin should allow. Tumors disappear without a trace. Pains that limited movement vanish without treatment. Doctors search for explanations and find none. Their experience becomes an involuntary witness of the supernatural. Even the air inside the hospital feels different. Words of despair lose strength, and fear dissolves before a peace no one can deny. The signs of my presence are not only in restored bodies but also in calmed emotions, in tears transformed into hope. What seemed like mere coincidence repeats again and again until even the most skeptical must acknowledge that something divine is at work. The signs multiply without warning. In one room, a woman who could not move her arms lifts them in gratitude. In another, a child who had been unresponsive begins to smile. In the hallways, relatives waiting for bad news receive calls with unexpected reports of recovery. Everything happens simultaneously, as if an invisible breath sweeps through the place, commanding life to return where silence and fragility once reigned. There is no pattern doctors can follow. No medicine can justify the improvements. Each healing occurs differently, yet all share one thing: the impossibility of explanation. Some attempt to attribute it to diagnostic error. Others speak of improbable coincidences. But the results are too precise, too immediate, too perfect to be chance. Clinical reports begin to contain words like inexplicable, spontaneous, without apparent cause. These are the marks of the miracle. They are the signs that cannot be ignored. What was once an object of study now becomes testimony. Statistics change, mortality records decrease, medical charts fill with notes that defy all logic. Professionals know their knowledge is not enough, yet something within them fills with reverence. Each sign has a purpose: to awaken wonder and sow faith. I do not act to provoke curiosity, but to reveal the greatness that dwells beyond science. What happens here is not random, it is fulfillment. It is the result of the manifestation of my power over matter, mind, and spirit. There is no boundary between the natural and the divine when I decide to intervene. Patients once considered lost cases become living signs. Their restored bodies are proof that no argument can erase. Doctors who witnessed the transformation face a dilemma: accept it as an inexplicable error or recognize it as a divine act. Many remain silent, but their thoughts are filled with awe. The signs are not limited to the body, they touch the conscience as well. The entire hospital becomes a stage of manifestations. Rooms fill with movement, voices rise in surprise, monitors sound with stability. Patients walk, families weep with joy, and healthcare professionals watch as their environment transforms beyond their control. No medical protocol can explain simultaneous recovery in so many areas. No theory can justify that everything improves at once. Each sign is a trace of my glory. Some manifest visibly, others internally. Some experience deep peace amidst chaos, others relief even without treatment. The divine energy I pour out spreads like a wave touching hearts, minds, and bodies. There is no corner where my presence does not manifest. No room is beyond my reach. The signs also speak to doubters. Words are unnecessary. Seeing them is enough to understand that something greater is acting. The doctor who did not believe stands silent before the monitor showing recovery. The nurse who prayed in secret feels that her prayer was heard. The relative who had lost hope senses an inner warmth confirming that life has triumphed. In every recovery, in every regained breath, I leave a message engraved in the depths of the soul. The impossible has yielded to my power. No illness can withstand when I decide to intervene. Bodies align with the perfection I designed, minds are freed from anguish, and emotions find balance. Everything harmonizes under the rhythm I impose with my will. The signs do not end with healing. They continue in the days that follow, as doctors review tests and discover that all remains stable, even better than before. There are no relapses, no setbacks, only wholeness. The signs endure to remind that what happened was not chance, but divine intervention. Every professional who witnesses these events carries a seed of faith, even if unacknowledged. Statistics change, but hearts do too. Some try to forget what they saw. Others keep it in silence, knowing they were witnesses to something sacred. The signs are etched into their memory, their emotions, and their experience. None can completely deny them. The signs I leave are not mere evidence, they are summons. They call to believe, invite surrender to what transcends human understanding. They are flashes of the eternal breaking into the temporal, fragments of my power manifested in flesh and spirit. Those who behold them cannot remain the same. The experience transforms them even if they do not admit it. Even when the hospital returns to routine, the signs remain. Written reports, recordings, oral testimonies, all retain the mark of the miracle. And though some may try to silence them, others will speak, for what is evident cannot be hidden. Words are forgotten, but works endure. I have established these signs so that no one can ignore the truth of my power. They are beacons in the midst of human knowledge, visible evidence that life responds to a higher will. Every recovery, every tear of joy, every astonished gaze confirms that my glory has touched the earth. The signs will continue to appear, for they are not limited by time or space. While there is need, there will be manifestations. While hearts are willing to believe, miracles will keep happening. Every hospital, every place where pain seeks to dominate, can become a stage for my power. The signs I leave are permanent, not only in the body but in the memory of those who witness them. They transform unbelief into reverence, skepticism into testimony, science into silent worship. No one who sees them will ever fully deny the supernatural. They are indelible traces that my hand has touched human reality and transformed it forever. Thus I remain in the midst of the hospital, leaving signs that speak louder than any word. Science falls silent, minds marvel, souls bow. The signs cannot be ignored, for they are living evidence that life submits to my power. What was impossible has been fulfilled, what was lost has been restored. And in every corner of this place, my glory shines as eternal proof that all I touch flourishes, heals, and lives. He sent his word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. Psalm 107 verse 20. My word is not spoken into emptiness. Every time it leaves my mouth, it carries the power of creation and life. Nothing can resist its authority, neither the most severe illness, nor the darkest diagnosis, nor the cold silence of a room where hope seems exhausted. When my word descends, it touches the bones, awakens dormant cells, and restores what seemed lost. In that hospital where men set limits, my word passes through walls. It does not enter with noise, yet it changes everything. Where doctors stop, my voice continues to work. Machines may record a falling pulse, but my breath raises it. Prognoses may seem like sentences, yet my word dictates a new story. When I pronounce healing, reality obeys. Matter responds to my voice, for it was created by it. Every organ hears the eternal echo of my decrees. Arteries remember the melody with which I formed them, and the heart, even tired, beats again with the strength I gave it in the beginning. No scalpel can achieve what a single syllable from me unleashes, because my voice does not just heal, it transforms. The miracle occurs when my word is received, when the space of the soul opens and faith allows it to penetrate. It is not about formulas or rituals, but the encounter between what I speak and what I believe. My word does not seek permission to act. It simply fulfills what it was sent to do. In that moment when doctors watch and do not understand, my power has already been released. I have spoken throughout history from the beginning. I ordered light in the midst of chaos, and even today I order life amidst pain. My decrees are eternal. They do not age nor weaken. Illness has time and limits. My word, on the other hand, is infinite. That is why, when a life is on the edge, when bodies surrender and instruments fall silent, my voice becomes the boundary between death and hope. In that room where relatives wait for a sign, where eyes are tired of crying, my word has already entered first. It needs no open doors, no authorization, no announcement. It is invisible yet powerful. It rests upon the sick like a mantle of gentle fire, penetrates the body, rewrites the internal codes that were damaged, and proclaims total restoration. Doctors call inexplicable recovery what my voice accomplishes with purpose. They look at the results and find no explanation, because my intervention cannot be measured by human parameters. I speak and numbers change. I declare and the fever stops. I command and the lungs open. Every time I speak, the universe bows before my mandate. My word has the same power it had at the beginning of time. It has not lost intensity, nor diluted over the centuries. When I pronounce it over a person, diseased tissue receives new information of life. Blood flows again in order, muscles gain strength, organs remember their original design. What medical reports describe as irreversible becomes restored under my decree. Nothing can resist a word spoken from my throne. Neither cancer, nor paralysis, nor chronic pain, nor the shadow of death. Everything yields, everything recedes, everything submits. My word has the very substance of eternal life, and where it reaches, there is no room for corruption or despair. Many have tried to understand my acts with human reasoning, but my power is not confined to scientific formulas. The laws of the body were created by me, and I can alter them when my purpose requires it. Where they see impossibility, I see opportunity to manifest my glory. Where they close the story, I open a new page with heavenly ink. When I declare healing, I touch not only the body but also the soul. My word passes through the skin and reaches the thoughts, purifying what fear had contaminated. Complete healing is not only the absence of disease, but restored wholeness. In that moment when the eyes of the sick open and the breath returns deep, not only has the flesh healed, but the spirit has awakened. The power of my word does not depend on the environment. It can resonate in a cold hospital room or in the silence of prayer. No interference can stop it. When spoken, molecules vibrate with its divine frequency. All creation remembers my voice and in recognizing it, obeys. That is why when my word declares life, death flees. In that room where doctors review results again, where nurses do not understand how the pain disappeared, I smile. Because every healing that the world cannot explain is evidence that my word remains alive, active, and eternal. I do not act randomly. Every miracle is a signature of my purpose, a demonstration of my faithfulness that transcends reason. My word never returns empty. If it was sent to heal, it will fulfill its mission. It may be a whisper amidst tears or a declaration amidst faith, but its power always manifests. No time nor space can limit it. It travels faster than light, reaches deeper than any medicine, acts beyond the visible. Many wait to see in order to believe, but when my word acts, they will see the impossible. The body rises, breathing returns, the heartbeat stabilizes, doctors fall silent, and in that silence, my glory shines. Not because anyone asked perfectly, but because my compassion has no measure. My word not only restores the physical, it also reorders the spiritual. Where there was fear, I implant peace. Where there was doubt, I establish certainty. Where there was surrender, I breathe courage. When I speak, hearts are strengthened, thoughts align, and the soul trusts again. Just as blood circulates through the veins, my voice flows through the entire being, bringing new life to every corner. In every hospital, in every bed where a silent battle occurs, my word continues to operate. It does not stop for diagnoses, it does not pause for prognosis. While men debate the how, my power has already fulfilled the what. The miracle is not always announced with noise. Often it comes in an instant where no one expected it. That is the strength of my word. It acts even when eyes do not see. While some pray with tears, I am already rewriting the reports. While doctors consult the results, my decree has already been sealed. While family waits for an answer, life is already flourishing within. No disease can prevail against a word spoken from heaven. Everything submits, everything changes, everything aligns. When my word manifests, the hospital atmosphere changes. The air fills with peace, hands tremble, and hearts know that something supernatural has just occurred. My word does not seek human recognition, but divine revelation. Every time I heal, I declare that life has an eternal origin. No limit can contain me, nor darkness hide me. Where others say, there is no solution, I establish, it is done. Thus my voice will continue on earth, healing bodies, renewing souls, and transforming stories. My word will continue traveling through hospital corridors, touching beds, moving through emergency rooms, breaking into final diagnoses. And every time a heart beats again, it will be an eternal echo of my voice declaring, live. Even when they did not seek me, they found me. I manifested myself to those who did not ask for me. Isaiah 65 verse 1. My power is not limited to those who speak my name, nor to those who declare they have faith. Sometimes the greatest manifestation occurs in those who doubt, in those who raise their hands without knowing whom to call, in those who think everything is over and yet, in their desperation, leave a small crack open in their heart. That crack is enough for me. Through it enters my light, and once inside, nothing is ever the same. In the hospitals of the world, conscious prayers and silences heavy with broken hope rise. But even in the most unbelieving hearts, my presence makes its way. They do not need to understand me to experience my power. It is enough that the soul, for a moment, surrenders to the mystery. There, in that tiny instant, I begin my work. When doctors exhaust their knowledge and relatives look at each other with resignation, my glory prepares to break through. I do not seek prepared scenarios or perfect environments. I arrive in the midst of chaos because in chaos my power is absolute. Unbelief does not stop me, it only gives me space to show that my ways surpass reason. Many think that faith is exclusive to the saints, but even those who doubt possess a spark of it, hidden among anguish and fear. That spark, though fragile, has the potential to ignite a miracle. It does not need the right words or long prayers. Sometimes a sigh, a glance to the sky, a question born from pain is enough. What if there is still hope? That question opens the door to my intervention. In a hospital where white lights illuminate tired faces, where machines mark time with regular beeps, my power slips in unnoticed. It enters the room where the body lies immobile, where doctors have said, there is nothing more to be done. And right there, where unbelief has planted its flag, faith begins to blossom without anyone noticing. It is not the faith proclaimed with words, but the faith born from awe. The faith of those who did not believe until the impossible happened. That faith pleases me because it does not rely on human promises or religious customs. It arises from direct encounter with my reality. When they see someone open their eyes after being declared lifeless, when they observe breath returning without explanation, when the monitors fill with movement, their hearts cannot deny what they witness. In those moments, doubt becomes a witness. Tears are no longer of pain, but of bewilderment and gratitude. Lips that once denied my existence begin to pronounce words they had not spoken in years. My power has this effect. It turns disbelief into worship, transforms science into wonder, and skepticism into reverence. In every inexplicable healing, I leave a mark that defies logic. I do not seek to contradict reason, but to show that my wisdom surpasses it. Doctors study and strive, and I delight in their dedication, but there are moments when the human cannot go further. That is where my invisible hands act, not to humiliate knowledge, but to remind that life does not belong to men, but to the eternal breath that sustains it. When the sick body receives my touch, even the instruments are confused. Values are restored, rhythms normalize, organs respond with a strength no one understands. It is not chance or coincidence. It is the fulfillment of a word spoken in heaven. My glory manifests where faith did not exist, because even unbelief surrenders to my majesty. I have often chosen to act among those who doubt, so that my power is recognized as absolute. Unbelief does not offend me, it serves as a stage. The more closed the doors of understanding, the more glorious it is when I break them with a single action. And when the human mind cannot explain, the heart opens. That opening, though small, is enough for me to fill everything with life. In that hospital where prayers mingle with reports, where nurses speak in low voices and the air seems heavy, my presence advances. No one notices it, but everything begins to change. The temperature shifts, the atmosphere becomes lighter. There is something in the environment that cannot be described, a sacred silence that precedes the miracle. While doctors review the data, the patient begins to move. Hands that had lost strength rise, eyes open, breathing becomes steady. And even though specialists find no explanation, the soul knows something divine has just happened. That is the faith of those who did not believe. It is born at the moment when evidence contradicts logic. Not everyone knows me, but all can experience my power. My intention is not to reward perfection, but to reveal my mercy. Many believe the miracle is only for those who pray, but I also manifest to those who do not even seek me, because my love does not wait for invitations. When I decide to act, I do so fully, and the most distant hearts become witnesses of heaven. In those rooms where hope had died, now there are songs of joy. Families who had prepared farewells celebrate new beginnings. Doctors who had dictated final diagnoses write in their reports words they never thought they would use, inexplicable recovery. And each time those words are written, my name is glorified even if they do not pronounce it. My power does not need to be understood to be real. It acts even amidst denial. When reason surrenders, the faith of those who did not believe ignites. It is not learned nor inherited faith. It is faith born from awe before the eternal. And that faith, though newly born, has enough strength to move mountains. Many approach after the miracle, trying to understand how it happened. They seek explanations, review exams, compare results. But what I touched cannot be analyzed with human instruments. What I restored belongs to the realm of the spirit. I healed bodies, but also broke internal walls, destroyed fear, restored purpose. For every physical healing carries a deeper healing hidden within, that of the soul learning to believe. When the unbeliever witnesses a miracle, his mind breaks and his heart opens. In that moment, faith takes root. It does not matter if he previously denied my existence. Upon seeing my power, something within him recognizes its origin. That is the greatest work, not only to heal bodies but to transform hearts that never thought they would trust again. In every hospital where I work, I leave signs that cannot be ignored. Hallways fill with whispers, glances meet with astonishment, and even though many do not understand, the atmosphere is imbued with my glory. No one can escape my presence when I decide to manifest it. The faith of those who did not believe becomes living testimony. They speak without knowing how to explain it, but their words move others. They say that something impossible occurred, that an invisible force changed everything. And even if they do not find the exact words, the message is understood. The eternal touched the earthly. Thus I continue to work without limits or borders. Where there is unbelief, I will make faith arise. Where there is despair, I will manifest my power. And when those who never believed lift their eyes with tears, they will know that my love did not forget them, that even in their denial I was near, waiting for the exact moment to show my glory. Every inexplicable healing is an open door. Through it, the human heart glimpses the divine. And once it has seen it, it can never be the same again. Faith is born not through teaching but through encounter. That is the faith that transforms, the one born of awe, the one that turns "I don't believe" into "now I know it is real." That is why, as long as there are hospitals full of uncertainty, I will continue to pronounce life. Amid machines, shadows, and silences, I will continue to manifest my power. Because even those who do not believe deserve to see my glory, and in their unbelief, they will find the faith that will lead them to know me through the miracle they could not deny. In every corner where science sets limits, I begin to unfold my greatness. I do not oppose human knowledge, but I transcend it. What the human mind cannot comprehend, my word executes effortlessly. In hospitals where medical reports deliver definitive sentences, my power breaks the schemes and protocols. Where doctors stop, my intervention manifests, not to challenge their work, but to reveal that the eternal sustains what they study. I have observed how men measure the body, analyze each organ, and trust their formulas. But there is a substance they cannot touch, the life I breathed from the beginning. That essence is mine, and when I decide to restore it, no diagnosis can stop me. In an instant I alter what seemed immutable. I restore the internal harmony of every cell, reorder vital systems, and make the impossible visible. When my power touches the sick flesh, science falls silent. Not because it fails, but because it encounters its limit. Doctors observe the results and find no explanation. Analyses change, symptoms disappear, bodies respond with a rhythm no medicine caused. And while they seek answers in what they know, my glory manifests in what they cannot measure. The healing I grant does not depend on treatments or prognosis. It is a pure expression of my authority. It follows no sequences or formulas. It manifests suddenly and perfectly. A weak body is strengthened instantly. A damaged organ begins to function without human intervention. An internal wound closes without a scar. In every event, human eyes open with astonishment, because they know what they witness surpasses medical understanding. I do not despise knowledge, for I myself planted the seed of wisdom in the human mind. But there are moments when I allow science to stop before the mystery, so that men remember that life is not a product of chance, but of my will. Every miracle in the hospital is a silent conversation between the human and the divine, a confirmation that my power governs what they can barely study. In those rooms where the equipment sounds endlessly, where cold lights reflect exhausted faces, my power unfolds like an invisible current. Doctors record numbers that change without apparent reason. Nurses watch as patients regain consciousness suddenly. No one understands it, but all feel it. There is a change in the air, a different vibration, an order arising without being controlled by human hands. Those who were in a coma open their eyes. Those who had lost their voice speak words. Those who could not move rise with new strength. There is no explanation that satisfies reason, because what has occurred belongs to a plane not studied with microscopes nor calculated with formulas. It is the manifestation of my power that surpasses all understanding. In those moments, the most rational minds fall silent. Some try to justify the miracle with theories, others simply stop and contemplate. Science, accustomed to predicting and controlling, faces something it cannot master. And when the reports show impossible results, my glory is imprinted between the lines, invisible yet present. I have allowed the wise to go far because I delight when knowledge grows. But I also take pleasure in showing that the deepest wisdom is not acquired in books, but in the experience of the supernatural. The healing I offer does not seek to replace science, but to remind it of its source. All true knowledge comes from my eternal mind. When I decide to intervene, even the most precise instruments become witnesses of the miracle. Monitors record values that change in seconds. Scanners show regenerated tissues. Laboratories deliver results that contradict previous reports. Doctors gather, discuss, repeat tests, and ultimately acknowledge that there is no explanation. That acknowledgement, though silent, is a form of worship. The healing I grant has no patterns. It can happen amidst noise or in absolute silence, during surgery or in a forgotten prayer. It does not depend on time or methods, because the authority I hold is not subject to natural laws. The laws that govern life obey my voice, and when I speak, they are reordered. The systems science tries to understand are reflections of a design still beyond their grasp. In hospitals, my power reveals itself with a purity no one can imitate. There is no artifice, no spectacle. Only a moment where life prevails over death, and the order I established from creation is restored. Doctors marvel, families weep, and the patient becomes living testimony of a truth science cannot contain. Sometimes I allow healing to occur before the eyes of specialists, so they understand that their knowledge is a gift, not mastery. I do not do it to humiliate them, but to elevate them to a higher understanding, that human wisdom and my power are not in opposition, but at different levels of the same truth. There are those who, after witnessing a miracle, become seekers of the divine. They do not abandon science but learn to look beyond the data. They understand that behind every regenerated cell, every heart that beats again, there is a force that cannot be explained but can be felt. That force is me, acting without limits, healing without waiting for permission. In every inexplicable healing, I leave a hidden message for those who know how to read it. That life is more than matter, healing is more than chemical reaction, and hope is more powerful than any diagnosis. Science may advance relentlessly, but there will always be a point where it bows before the mystery, and at that point, my power shines. Rooms that were once full of pain become places of celebration. Doctors who delivered sentences now smile in disbelief. Patients rise, families give thanks, and hallways fill with an echo not of this world. That echo is my glory, extending beyond walls, reaching hearts that still doubt. Nothing I touch remains the same. When my power acts, matter responds, disease retreats, and science observes in silence. No boundary contains me, no system limits me. The healing I grant is perfect, immediate, and total. It is not based on statistics, but on the decree issued by my will. Those who witness these acts carry the mark of astonishment. Some call it coincidence, others a miracle. But all know deep down that something higher has occurred. And even if they cannot define it, they remember it for the rest of their lives. Every healing becomes a seed of faith that grows over time, reminding that the impossible can happen when I intervene. I allow science to advance so that my miracles are understood with greater awe. The more they know the body, the more amazed they are when my power restores it without human intervention. Every human advancement confirms my design, and every limit reached reveals my authority. Human knowledge expands, but my glory surpasses it eternally. That is why I will continue manifesting in hospitals, laboratories, and rooms where the diagnosis is grim. No technology can predict my work. No calculation can anticipate my purpose. When I decide to heal, science bows and the world marvels. Every time a doctor observes an impossible result, a part of their mind opens to the mystery. And in that small space of awe, if allowed, I plant the seed of recognition. They do not need to name me. It is enough to understand that something greater has intervened. That understanding is the beginning of a new wisdom. The healing that surpasses science does not seek to challenge it, but to complete it. The human mind measures the visible, but my power governs the invisible. What science calls phenomenon, I call purpose. And when both meet, humanity rises to a dimension where knowledge and faith embrace. Thus I will continue acting in silence and with glory. Where science is silent, my voice resonates. Where men surrender, my works begin. And while the world tries to explain the inexplicable, I will continue showing that true wisdom is not in understanding everything, but in recognizing that there is an eternal power that can do all things, and in every hospital, in every healing, in every restored breath, that power continues writing the story of the miracle that surpasses all science. And you will be my witnesses to the ends of the earth. Acts 1 verse 8. When my power touches human flesh, the miracle ceases to be a mystery and becomes a living sign. In that moment, the limits of human understanding dissolve before my purpose, and science bows, acknowledging what it cannot explain. In hospitals where the routine of diagnosis reigns, my presence rises like an invisible fire that transforms reports, changes prognosis, and turns despair into testimony. For I do not allow my glory to remain hidden beneath medical protocols or under the doubts of those who trust only in the visible. I raise up those whom all had declared finished. I make the pulse that was fading beat again, the heart that seemed to stop regain its strength, the damaged organs respond immediately. No machine can measure what I do when I decide to intervene. And when I do, I leave not traces of pain, but marks of my victory. Doctors observe and remain silent. Nurses are moved, families weep, and the patient becomes a witness of my kingdom. Every miracle I unleash in those corridors is not an isolated event. It is a heavenly declaration. My word is fulfilled even if no one utters it aloud, because when I speak, life responds. When I command that something be restored, matter itself obeys. There is no cell, tissue, or molecule that resists the mandate of my power. Science studies it, analyzes it, records it in reports with words like inexplicable or unforeseen. But in my kingdom it is called fulfilled purpose. I have allowed many to reach the limit, not to destroy them, but so that my hand may be clearly seen. Because when human hope is exhausted, my glory manifests without competition. In the silence of the hospital night, where only monitors sound and staff walk slowly, there I descend with power. I do not announce my arrival, but I leave my presence. I touch the sick body, restore the organs, awaken what was asleep. And at dawn, when doctors review the results, they discover that something occurred beyond their reach. I do not seek human recognition or applause, but hearts that understand that the miracle is not chance, but message. Every healing I allow has a destiny, carries a name, and becomes testimony that spans generations. Through the miracle, my power is spoken through the lips of those who were restored. Those who once doubted now proclaim. Those who feared now trust. The hospital transforms into an invisible altar where glory is given without words, because my presence left evidence. I transform illness into announcement. Where there was weeping, I plant proclamation. Where there was a mortal diagnosis, I plant eternal hope. I make doctors recognize that there is something beyond their hands, and that life does not depend solely on what they study, but on the one who sustains it. Many try to explain it, but my purpose is not to be explained, but to be experienced. Every story of instant healing becomes a flame that ignites the faith of others. The voice of testimony does not fade with time. It spreads like a living current. What I do in one room is heard throughout the city. What happens in one bed becomes an announcement for those who still do not believe. Thus, I establish my kingdom amid the ordinary. Thus, I reveal that my power does not belong to the past, but continues to breathe in the present. When my word is spoken over the sick body, angels move. Pain recedes, fever subsides, blood is purified, and the systems of the body obey a new order. Not because science understands it, but because the Creator commands it. And when the patient opens their eyes and feels peace where there was once anguish, they understand that something supernatural occurred. Testimony is born in that instant, like a seed that will germinate in many souls. I have decided that my miracles will not be hidden behind hospital walls. Every doctor who witnesses an impossible case is marked by the eternal. Some remain silent, others marvel, but all know they have witnessed something that transcends their knowledge. I even use their lips to proclaim my power, even if they do not comprehend it. For when science finds no reason, the Spirit recognizes the truth. There is no limit to what I can do when a life belongs to me. If the patient trusts me, healing manifests with strength. But even when there is no faith, my compassion can break through to show that mercy does not depend on human merit. I do not heal only to relieve, but to reveal. Every restored body is a message written in flesh and blood, a reminder that heavenly power continues walking among men. The miracle does not end with recovery. It begins there. For restored life must speak, must tell what it has seen. Testimony does not belong to the one who receives it, but to the one who granted it. That is why I inspire those who were healed to raise their voices. It is not vanity to tell what I have done. It is obedience. Every word they speak multiplies the faith of those who listen. Every story opens a door for others to believe. Thus, I extend my purpose without walls or temples. I have chosen hospitals as stages of my glory, because their human weakness confronts divine power. Where all seems lost, where tears are constant and reports are cold, there my strength shines the brightest. And when healing comes, everyone knows it was not luck, coincidence, or a misdiagnosis. It was a sovereign act that changed destiny. The voice of testimony passes through walls, touches hearts, and awakens hope in those far away. A true miracle is not kept, it is shared. And every time someone recounts how they were lifted, heaven rejoices, because a new seed of faith has been planted. Those who hear these stories feel a spark within. That spark is my presence, reminding them that I can also do it in their lives. Nothing I do is without purpose. If I restore a body, I also restore a soul. If I return life, I also awaken a mission. Many were healed not only to live, but to proclaim. I granted them a second chance not to return to silence, but to be bearers of hope. In every word they speak recounting their story, my power is renewed and reaches new hearts. Science will continue trying to explain what it does not understand, but my works do not need explanation, only acknowledgement. And the day will come when medical reports will serve as written witnesses of my glory. The papers that once spoke of disease will become records of faith. Doctors who once doubted will become defenders of the miracle. For what I do cannot be denied when the result is before their eyes. I send healings that defy logic, to remind the world that I still rule over all flesh. No ailment surpasses me, no human limit can stop me. Every body I restore, every mind I clear, every heart that beats again is part of my testimony on earth. And those who witness it, even if they do not believe, end up speaking of it. Thus, my name spreads even through lips that do not know me. The miracle is more than an event, it is an open door. It is the way I reveal that eternity blends with the temporal. Every story of healing has an echo that does not fade. Even as years pass, it will continue to inspire, continue to awaken faith. For true testimonies do not die, they multiply. That is why I declare that in every hospital where my name is invoked, I will leave signs. That every bed where there was suffering will become an altar. That every impossible diagnosis will turn into a proclamation of my power. And that every testimony that rises will be a flame illuminating others in their darkness. My word does not return empty. Every healing is a message in motion, a silent gospel traveling through corridors, homes, and hearts. What I do does not end in the body but continues in the soul and expands in the spirit. And when the one who was healed walks again, when they smile, when they give thanks, when they tell their story, heaven rejoices. For the miracle is complete. Not only was life restored, but an eternal testimony was ignited. And the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. Romans 16 verse 20. The hour of victory has come. In the place where suffering seemed to have the final word, my power rises like a sun that disperses every shadow. In the hospital where sighs and cold diagnoses were heard, now the air of hope is breathed. What science did not understand, what reason declared impossible, what man considered lost, has become testimony of my glory. For every miracle I perform carries within it the sign of my triumph over all that oppresses life. I have conquered disease, fear, and despair. I have shaken human limits with a single word, and turned tears into celebration. Where the body was breaking, I raised strength. Where the mind surrendered, I planted peace. In the hallways where uncertainty once reigned, now flows a presence that cannot be denied. Every bed that rises, every monitor that marks new life, proclaims that my power has not weakened. Doctors look at the results in astonishment. The reports that once spoke of death now show perfect health. There is no explanation that can contain the eternal. What for them was an unexpected change, for me was the fulfillment of a promise. Science records it, but my purpose transcends. And while the doctors try to understand, those who witnessed it feel a peace that does not come from the world. That peace is not temporary, it is an inheritance I leave to those who trust in my power. Where I touch, everything aligns. Blood flows with perfect rhythm, lungs breathe effortlessly, bones regain their strength, the heart beats steadily. But beyond the body, I restore the soul. The healing I unleash does not end in the physical, because my intention is complete, to transform pain into purpose, anguish into trust, weakness into testimony. I have allowed many to pass through the valley of suffering to reveal that victory is not in avoiding the battle, but in overcoming it with my presence. Every process of pain is a stage where my glory is revealed in dimensions the human mind cannot conceive. When I intervene, defeat becomes memory and disease transforms into a sign of life. My victory is not measured by the minutes on a clock, but by the eternal impact it leaves on the spirit of those who witness my work. What happens in an instant under the hospital's white light expands beyond the walls. It reaches the hearts of those who listen, inspires those who doubt, strengthens those who wait. There is no act more powerful than restoring what was considered lost. The enemy tried to sow despair, but he could not withstand my light. He tried to extinguish faith, but the miracle ignited it with greater strength. In every body I healed, defeat was erased, and in every soul that believed, heaven left its mark. It was not a mere recovery, it was an act of authority. And with that act, I sealed a victory that no one can reverse. The tears that once rolled down cheeks are now pearls of gratitude. The crying that filled the nights becomes song. The voice that cried for help now proclaims my faithfulness. For in the place where fear ruled, I installed my peace. That peace does not depend on the diagnosis or prognosis, but on the certainty that my power is eternal. Nothing escapes my dominion. Neither fever, nor cancer, nor organ failure, nor the weight of an incurable disease. Everything that exists recognizes my voice. And when I speak, life responds. What science cannot explain, my spirit manifests clearly. And even if men try to name it, what occurs can only be called a miracle. The victory was not partial, it was total. In that hospital where an invisible battle was fought, it was established that no force can resist the will of heaven. Medical reports were rewritten by my hand. What was projected as an end became a beginning. The disease that sought to steal life ended up being the stage where life triumphed. The soul that had lost faith now shines. The family that waited resigned now celebrates in amazement. And in the hallways where silence used to weigh, a different calm is breathed. A calm that does not come from logic but from my eternal peace. For when I heal, I leave no traces of uncertainty. I leave fullness. I establish glorious endings where the world only sees tragedies. I take what was a wound and turn it into a scar of victory. I make suffering transform into testimony, and the story of a hospital bed become a proclamation of life. No one can deny what they witnessed. No one can hide the evidence. For where I act, silence is broken with gratitude and unbelief becomes faith. The peace I leave does not fade when health returns. It remains. It accompanies the healed in every step, reminding them that they were touched by the eternal. That peace settles in the mind, calms fears, dissolves doubts, and opens the eyes to see life in new light. It is the peace that becomes inheritance for children, testimony for friends, a seed of faith for those still awaiting their miracle. The final victory is not only to heal a body, but to restore communion between heaven and earth. Every person who was healed carries within an invisible sign, a living connection to the power that lifted them. That connection does not extinguish because it was born from the fire of my word. And every time they speak a word of gratitude, that connection strengthens. Science may close the file, but my purpose remains open. The miracle does not end with the medical discharge. It begins with it. For a restored life is a life destined to illuminate. Where there was once pain, now there is purpose. Where there was fear, now there is spiritual authority. And those who witness that power can no longer live the same. They have been witnesses of the eternal touching the earthly. I establish a new beginning. Those who were prostrate now walk securely. Those bound by pain now embrace freedom. Those who feared death now live without fear, knowing that the victory was not temporary but definitive. My peace covers their days like a sacred mantle, and my joy becomes their shield. No disease will return with power over them, for the touch they received was not human, it was heavenly. The body was restored, but the spirit was sealed. And that seal proclaims an unbreakable truth: the victory is already won. In hospitals, I will continue manifesting my glory. As long as there are hearts that cry for hope, my power will keep descending. The empty beds will be testimony, the corrected reports will be a banner, and the restored lives will be my messengers. The peace I pour out will remain like fragrance in every corner, reminding that the last word always belongs to me. I have unleashed upon the earth a wave of healings that defy logic and awaken sleeping faith. Those who witness these acts understand that nothing is impossible when the eternal intervenes. And while the world seeks reasons, my children rise in victory, proclaiming that heavenly power continues acting with authority and glory. This is the final victory, the defeat of fear, the fall of disease, the consecration of life. What began in a cold room ends in silent worship, where the soul recognizes that it has been touched by the God who reigns over all. And in that moment, heaven and earth unite in one song, the song of eternal peace. My purpose was not only to heal, but to teach that in me there is no end, only transformation. What seemed loss became gain, what seemed darkness turned into dawn. And although bodies will return to dust, the spirit that has tasted my power will no longer fear. For the victory I granted does not belong to time, but to eternity. That is why I declare that in every hospital where my name is invoked, there will be victory. That in every mind that believes, peace will flourish. That in every restored body, glory will shine. For the healing I deliver is not fleeting. It is a seal of eternity. And when all ends, when the last breath fades on earth, the soul that knew me through the miracle will walk in perpetual peace. For victory does not end with earthly life. It begins in it and is consummated in eternity. On that day, all pain will be forgotten. Every tear will be wiped away and every voice will proclaim, "The power that healed on earth now gives eternal life."